Hi, and welcome back to Broadsheet Melbourne Around Town. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video. I'm Katja Vakjal, Broadsheet's editorial director and the host of this 10-minute guide to Melbourne. Jo Walker is Broadsheet's home and lifestyle editor, and no one is more knowledgeable than Jo about all the creatives and designers and makers in Melbourne. We have had so many stories go up on the site in the last few months about really special Melbourne makers. So we thought, let's get Jo in to talk about some of these names and what they make with you, the listeners. You probably want to go out and grab some as soon as we've discussed them. This is everything from beautiful sheets made with a material you might not expect to contemporary stained glass mirrors that feature your favourite cocktail. So welcome, Jo.
Hello.
We're going to do a flash round.
Okay.
That's why I'm envisioning this.
This is Mastermind.
It's basically Mastermind, but of Melbourne makers.
Okay. All right.
Let's start with stained glass.
Yes.
With Poppy Templeton and Duck Ragu.
Yes.
Please tell us all about this.
Okay. During this piece, I learnt the difference between different LED lighting and Tiffany copper foiling, which I did not know was a thing. But imagine Nana's Tiffany lamp. That is how Poppy makes things. But she's not making Tiffany lamps. She's making mirrors that look a little bit Mondrian, lots of different big colours. She makes art installations that are kind of anything you want. There's one that has a cocktail on it. There's one I've seen that is a oyster picnic. This is a thing that people enjoy. She also makes necklaces and bikinis out of glass, which I can't imagine are incredibly comfortable. But in the picture, it is a person's form wearing a glass bikini.
That's really the forefront of fashion.
Right.
Yep.
I'm not saying that is something that people would wear to the beach. It is waterproof though, so I suppose it sort of makes sense. That's a sideline. The main thing that we enjoy about her, is her creativity making weird glass bikinis, but also making these beautiful custom-made mirrors and art pieces.
So what's the reason for the name Duck Ragu?
It sounds like something that would have a really interesting kind of like many-tiered anecdote behind it, but she likes ducks and she likes ragu. That is the beginning and end of it, so why not? And it sticks in your head.
I like
Duck ragu. It makes as much sense as anything.
So these beautiful stained glass mirrors, as Jo's mentioned, if you wanted them to look like the stained glass of, the 1950s and 60s, absolutely, you could have that happen. But if you want to create something bespoke, if you've got a gift in mind, some of the pieces that Jo described or we have in our piece are kookaburras, so, nature. So she's really able to do whatever you want her to do. And as you said, all custom made. And she's got kind of a line of things that she can go to, but if you've got your own ideas, bring them too.
Yeah, and I think it seems to be a bit of a process. Apparently there's only one place in Melbourne that you can buy the glass that goes in these things. So a lot of it is actually recycled glass that she sources off Facebook Marketplace and then cuts into tiny things and collages together into an oyster picnic.
An oyster picnic. So you can get or find out more about these mirrors at duckragu.com. Okay, we're going to go to sheets now.
Okay.
Plantchester.
Yes.
A Melbourne-based brand.
Yes.
Why are they different? Why are their sheets different?
Okay. They are made out of hemp. Tim Berenew, who is the label owner, I thought was very funny. He was very paranoid about people knowing that hemp doesn't have to be itchy like a sack. It is moved on from whatever Nimbin hippie stuff you probably are thinking of. So apparently they're very comfortable. The other thing that I think is interesting about them, and I love the design thinking behind this, is that every step of the production, the usage, and then what happens to these sheets after you're done with them is very eco-focused. So it is made with this material that is hemp. Again, I'm learning things. You don't need pesticide. You don't need all these nasties in its production.
And they're 100% GOTS certified, so which is kind of the certification you want when you're making things of material and linen, especially things that you're going to be sleeping in.
Right. And apparently it's also, if anyone wants to leave their sheets on probably longer than their mum told them to, apparently you can do that because they're antifungal and antimicrobial.
Oh.
and hypoallergenic. So there's all of these magical supposed properties of hemp.
Yeah.
Then the thing that I think is very interesting is because he started out thinking, I want these to be able to be compostable at the end of life. So there's no plastic. It's literally just hemp fibers in these things. So the doona, instead of potentially having little buttons that close it, it has ties. The thing that I thought was interesting was the fitted sheet, no elastic, but a pull cord, a bit like the pull cord on your pajamas.
Oh, of course, yeah. As the story says, these sheets are also incredibly soft. You know, you mentioned that earlier. These are not scratchy things. Beautiful soft sheets. And can you just talk a little bit about the dyes and the colours? Because I think that's a really interesting part of the story. They're not using kind of commercially made chemical dyes. They're using natural dyes and the colours look beautiful.
Well, this is the other thing about what I'm saying about all of the different steps are thought through. And so that you can happily use them for a long time, but when you're happily chucking them in the compost at the end, because it's not manufactured dyes, it's these beautiful plant dyes, which are from, I think one of them's walnuts.
One of them's definitely walnut. That was the one that caught my eye.
Walnuts, and there's a pink one that is tea tree fruit. So he's either out being an ecological warrior or he's making eco sheets for the rest of us.
Yeah, as we've mentioned, beautiful kind of light pinks, a beautiful blue in the photos on the website. So I urge people to go and check these out, especially if you care about things that look good but also are better for the environment than perhaps the sheets you've already got on your bed. And you can find more out about them at plantchester.com. Okay, racing through to the end, at the table is a ceramic studio by another Melbourne maker. This was a lockdown project. Really beautiful ceramics, candelabras, incense holders. Tell us about this one.
Okay, so Kathleen Campone, as you said, with the lockdown project, previously they were a dancer. And one of the questions that we asked them was, how does dance relate to actually processing and making pottery? Is there any connection? And what was interesting was they said that the endurance and physicality of it was something that really drew them to the process of ceramics, which is sort of interesting. But when you think about, you know, you build it from the clay, then you take the mold, then you slip cast it, then it goes and it gets...
It's quite a physical experience making them.
Yeah, and then drying and then painting. So their sort of signature is to do these deliciously wonky, shall we say, hand-painted black and white checks. And as you say, the candelabras, the vases, there's something I think a little bit Tim Burton-y about them. Like I almost feel like if they started moving and came to life, I wouldn't be completely surprised about it.
They are. They're really, really fun, but also the kind of piece that if your house is quite minimalist, a really beautiful little statement piece as well, because they're quite striking with those checks. The prices start at $50 for those incense holders. They go up to a little bit more for the candelabras, and the website for that is atthetable.store. Now, we did talk about squeezing in one more, not a Melbourne maker, but you and I were both so excited by this story on the site.
Yes.
Let's just talk about Joyrolla very quickly.
Okay, because it does bring both of us joy. So Joyrolla, R-O-L-L-A, Rolla, is a new brand. They are out of northern New South Wales. Basically, the idea is, remember those granny carts that you would see nonnas taking to the market?
You still see them.
You still see them. Traditionally vinyl, potentially floral, or there's a lot of tartan.
Lots of tartan.
Right. So the idea was, what is the modern version of that? So these are monochrome. They are beautifully made. They look good when they're full of stuff at the market. You can put several pumpkins in them, I have been told.
Which is really the main measure of how good one of those rollers are.
It's a good unit of measure. And then when you take the pumpkins out, when you get home, it still looks nice. They are, at the moment, they've got black, lilac and a mustardy colour. And yeah, it's basically just really cool. The thing I thought interesting about them was no one really knows what to call these things. So when I was talking to Marissa Mills, who is the co-founder, we were talking about it as the granny cart roller trolley thingy thing. And we both knew what we were talking about. And every single person I've said that to since then also knows what that is.
Yeah. But as we've said, these will not be the granny cart rollers you have seen. Again, we've got that story on the website. We've got lots of stories about incredible makers and creative and designers on Broadsheet. So go there if you're looking for any more of that inspiration. Thanks, Jo. That's all we've got time for this week. As always, you can stay up to date at any time at broadsheet.com.au or on Instagram at broadsheet_Melb. See you again next week.